And she's looking on Majic.
How are y'all tonight?
One of them. And she's just going to ask some questions. You might have some questions for the panel or for us. So,
Are you guys an emotional wreck too? I cried, tears of joy, and just tears. I cried with you, for you. I thank you for sharing your story. Thanks for being so open and honest and just laying it all right here on the stage. I need you to give these ladies another round of applause. For Tallulah and for making this all possible. So, as she stated, we have some esteemed guests in the audience. We have a few physicians here that are going to join us here for the panel. I'm going to ask the people, I know you, like I said earlier, I know you were touched. I know that you felt something by watching and having them share their stories. So if you have questions, if you want to ask, this is the time to ask, because I think they're here to share everything, right?
Yes. I think they're okay.
I think they're amazing. So what I'm going to do,
Yes.
we want you to stay here.
You guys are the
So we have Dr. Regina Hampton in the building. Okay, we have Dr. Laray Price. Dr. Laray Price. We also have Jacqueline Beale joining us. And we have Maimah Karmo. Okay, ladies, so I know a few of you personally. So, Ricki, I love you with my whole heart. Ricki and I, we go back. I was on the Donnie Simpson show as an entertainer reporter for the Donnie Simpson show, so I met Ricki 5 years now? Yeah. 5 years? Love her story. I have to share this quickly. I was a teenage mom, so I have a young daughter who's just 24, and she went and she got a mammogram, well not a mammogram, but just a regular test, and they found a lump. And I immediately called Ricki. And without question, Ricki said, I'm taking you to lunch. We're going to go talk about this. And Ricki then went to share all of her doctor's information. She wanted to talk to my daughter. She wanted to walk me through the whole process. She said, but before we get worked up, just go see what it is. And so we stayed in the restaurant and we just prayed. And my daughter went to the doctor and it was benign. So it is nothing. This woman gives you in a minute, like in 1 second, it's indescribable.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that with you. And this beautiful lady, and I call her Pixey.
Right.
I'm sure you do too, if you know, if you affectionately know her.
Yeah.
She's a joy. She knows that I do the American Breast Cancer Walk every year. She came up to me and shared her story with me, and I didn't realize that she was going to have her mastectomy so quickly. I didn't know that it was going to be in a matter of minutes, it seemed like. And so I hadn't seen her in a while. She came up to me at Wind Down Thursdays and she's like, I did it. And I was like, what? She said, yes, they're gone. I'm like, and just her happiness and her joy. Again, you all are like contagious with your energy. Yeah. Thank you for being amazing.
Well, we want everyone to be as contagious about their BSCs as we were. Okay, it needs to be viral. Like if something goes viral on IG and Facebook and Twitter, doing self-breast exams needs to be just as viral. We can talk about everything else, but you know, for whatever reason, we have a hard time. I know me, I can shut down and not want to talk about anything, but this has, I don't want to say blossomed, but it really opened me up, you know, because again, I was very stubborn and probably some would say, we're not going to ask them over there, that I was very mean, you know, and still am.
Right.
But this humbles you. When you meet people, right, you meet people who, like Shonte who is 35. Like, I can't imagine, when I was 35, you can't imagine, I'm thinking, oh God, my margin isn't clear, am I right? My Lord. But I can't imagine, so there's always someone who is going through something worse. And if we don't talk about it, if we don't have panels and forums and girl talks and girl drinks and all that good stuff, we don't know.
Absolutely.
Can I say something too? The other thing is, you can see all of our stories. We had to fight with our doctors. We all had an issue with getting the right attention from our doctors. You know, my doctor gave me 2 years to live because she didn't know me better.
Right.
She didn't know triple negative. And we all have that story. And so if we don't advocate for ourselves, we're not going to get the right care.
Absolutely. That leads me to my first question with Dr. Regina Hampton. Yes. So listen, I'm sure she is an actual physician and she actually has to diagnose these women on a regular basis. I'm sure that it's difficult. How hard is it to have to look a woman in the face and share this with them?
It's always hard. You know, I've been doing this now for 14 years. It never gets easy, but I tell you, one of the hardest days of my life was when I had to diagnose one of my good personal friends who passed away last year, and that was probably one of the hardest days for me. But I just want to celebrate these women. You know, I've spent my career trying to get women of color to talk about this issue because we have to talk about it. We have to share our stories, and so I hope this is really the start of something new because I think the more that we can talk about it, the more women are going to come out of shadows so that we can really start to make a difference and start to diagnose our women at earlier stages. We can diagnose our women when the stage is early and we can turn around those numbers that we have. I want to see more survivors.
Do we have any questions in the audience so, as of yet? No, you're working up the courage? Okay. So, Dr. Laray Price. Hi. Talk to us a little bit about how you felt tonight watching the performance.
I'm so touched. I feel so honored to be here with you guys. And the things that you guys said about surviving and thriving, those are the things that I talk to women about when they come to me and say that they've been diagnosed with cancer. We talk about goals. We talk about living until, you know, God says different, and until He does, then live your best life. You know, get up each morning when you can, and try and do at least one thing, and that might be just from going to the bed to the chair. But try and get up and try and do as much as you can for as long as you can. So when I heard you guys' story, I am celebrating with you guys. You just don't know Cowboys Nation. All right.
We got that. I know y'all like no, right? We got Redskins fans in the building, right? Well, I got love for all of you because I'm a Patriots fan. Pittsburgh. Okay. So this leads me to my next question. How young are your patients when they come in? And what's the youngest patient that you've ever had?
With breast cancer, I think my youngest is 24.
24. What advice would you give the women in the audience tonight for themselves and their children as far as regular checkups, early detection? What advice would you share?
So I'm a big advocate, just as the ladies expressed here, of breast self-exam. I think as soon as young girls start to develop breasts, we need to start teaching our young girls about breast self-awareness so that they understand about their bodies. They can let their parent or loved one know when they feel something different and go to see a doctor. You know, I definitely agree with advocating for yourself. It is hard to make a diagnosis in a younger woman, I think, you know, because this is what I do, but for some of the primary care doctors, it is hard. And unfortunately, they may not be thinking and knowing, and I think the other part of that is we and the breast community, we haven't done a good job of really educating our primary care doctors, our OBGYNs, who are on the front lines so that they can be aware that no, you know, when a young African American woman comes in with a lump, you got to go a step further and figure out what's going on. So it's really advocating for yourself. I mean, we're in a great area where there's many breast specialists almost on every corner. In DC, Maryland, Virginia, there's a lot of great providers out there. If you find that the doctor that you're seeing doesn't meet your needs, you can fire that doctor. It's okay. You can fire us. It's okay. And get to the doctor, get to the place that's gonna listen to you, that's going to take your needs and your complaints seriously.
Thank you. Thank you. Somebody over there. You know, they hit your way. We want you to come on up and join us. Come on up.
Actually,
Oh, good. Okay. We have 2 questions. I'm gonna come over.
yeah.
How do you do this? Be like nearby so we can ask you. So Maimah actually is a transformational coach and a cancer survivor. She's also a best-selling author, and I just wanted to quickly ask a question.
Yes.
In your journey, did you find similarities with the women's stories that spoke today?
Yeah, I was very inspired by everybody's presentations and what you're talking about. And Dr. Hampton is one of my heroes, my sheroes. She's so amazing. I learned to have breast cancer at 32 years old. My mom taught me breast exams at 13. How many moms discuss with their daughters breast health and breast self-exams at 13 years old? None, very rarely. And she told me that, you know, your body's going to change, and I want you to know your body as it changes. So if you get a lump or discharge, you'll know what that is not normal, and you will seek help. I never thought I would have breast cancer until 18 years later, taking a shower, and there was this lump right here, and my world totally stopped. And my mother is what saved me, because she taught me something vital at 13. To know my body, speak up, and get help. I saw the doctor and was told I could not have breast cancer, that I was too young for breast cancer. And to go home, live my life, and come back in 6 months to a year. And so if I had listened to the surgeon, I got a mammogram as well, the screening came back clean. So the screening was clean. The doctor said I didn't have breast cancer, but I knew my body so intimately that I kept pushing for a diagnosis. And turned out I had stage 2B, triple negative breast cancer. So if I hadn't had a mother who was my teacher and influencer and advocate, if I hadn't been checking myself, hadn't pushed, I would not be here today. And so when I began Tiger Lily, it really was a way to help women to raise their voices and girls to raise their voices, to not be ashamed to say my doctor could be wrong, to push for her own body, her own self. You're your best doctor. It's your body. You have one life to live. And so it's so important that we as women of color don't take no for an answer, and we have to push for the right answer, whatever that right answer is.
Absolutely.
Of course.
In the back.
I was having some wine.
You said we have questions? Can you raise your hand? Okay. You want to come on up? Or you want me to come to you? Because I don't have a mic.
I can speak loud.
Okay, there you go.
I wanted to know, this question is to the physicians, I'm young, so I wanted to know what is the typical age that you start getting a mammogram, and then if you have a parent or a grandparent that had breast cancer, for that person, what age should they start getting a mammogram? Because I know it's a difference.
So as the ladies were saying, we need to definitely know our family history. I'm going to take the family history piece first. So it's important to know not only who in our family had cancer, was it a mother, a sister, an aunt, on the mother's side or father's side. It's important to know what age. And not only for breast cancer, because we developed some other cancers at early ages, colon cancer, lung cancer, prostate cancer in men. So we need to know who had it, which side of the family, and at what age. The recommendation that I follow is starting at age 40 if you have no family history, that you get your mammogram every single year starting at age 40. If there is a family history of young breast cancer, then those women in that family should start 10 years earlier, at least being seen in what's called a high-risk program where we're following you, we're doing clinical breast exams. We may need to get mammograms, we'll assess your risk, and then be able to follow you very closely. So if something is gonna show up, then we can find it very early. So mammograms every year starting at age 40, know your family history. If women under the age of 40 got breast cancer, then those women should start 10 years earlier, or at least be seen by a high-risk, in a high-risk program.
Thank you. Did you have one more question? Yes, ma'am.
This is, I guess it's kind of a question, but then again, it's not.
Okay.
I'm a 2-year breast cancer survivor. You guys are just wonderful. You brought back a lot of memories and things like that. Just about everybody talked about feeling a lump in their breast. I, on the other hand, did not have any lumps. I had fibrocystic breast. Nothing was there. My lump was so small that you could not feel it. Thank God I had a mammogram and 3D mammogram, and it showed that I did have something. So what can you, I mean, I guess you really can't say anything to a person if you can't feel it. I mean, yes, you should do your breast self-exams and everything, but like you all said, sometimes your body gives off signs.
Different things.
Right.
So that's a good point. So what are some of the signs if we don't detect the lump? What are some of the signs that we can say we might need to go?
No, listen, it was the Dallas person.
So she was just asking, what are some of the signs to look for?
So certainly anything that just doesn't feel normal. If you notice one breast is larger and it hadn't been like that before. If you notice that the nipple, if you're an outie with your nipples and one starts to become an innie, that's something that you need to get checked out. Breast pain, a lot of women can have breast pain, but some women can present with breast pain. If you think it's breast pain that's out of the ordinary, not associated with a menstrual cycle or any hormonal changes, it doesn't hurt to get that checked out. Sometimes a mammogram may miss a breast cancer, especially an inflammatory breast cancer. That can present sometimes as an infection. So some women can get redness and they can think they're having an infection. They'll get on antibiotics, they may get a little bit better, but it doesn't completely go away. If the skin looks like it has an orange peel to it and it just looks different when you look in the mirror, that's something to get checked out. So just anything that just doesn't feel like your normal lumpiness, because we all may feel a little normal lumpiness, and again, it may not be lumpy. I would prefer that everybody come in without feeling a lump. If we could find everything on a mammogram, that means it's very small and very treatable.
All right, I love it.
I had a statement on that because I had fibrocystic breast, and I started to get the ultrasounds because I was having a nipple discharge, and at that time I didn't have a cyst, but then like a slow cyst started to form, but it was real soft, and they don't biopsy it, they just ultrasound and say it's fluid field or something. And so closer to the time frame after I had the surgery, my breast, like I had like this extreme pain, like it just happened like one day, and the motion didn't stop the pain, and then like that lump that was soft, it became real hard to touch, and like I guess it's just, and then I also had like a little skin, like I thought it was like an eczema type sort of thing, and I put cortisone, it went away, so I just didn't anything, but then like my boobs started to shrink, and I was like, wait, and it was just, I don't know, it's just different,
For everybody. So we're gonna wrap this up, but before we do, I just wanted to quickly recognize our last panelist. She's here, she's Jacqueline Beale. She's a 2-time breast cancer survivor, and she's the ambassador for American Breast Cancer Society. Just really quick, before we wrap things up, listening to these ladies' stories, did anything kind of resonate with you?
So part of my role is we lobby Congress to make sure they do the right thing and to pass legislation and laws that protect cancer patients. And as an example of that is, for example, now that myself and some of these ladies and some others in the audience who've been diagnosed with cancer, we've been labeled to have pre-existing conditions, right? And so in the Affordable Care Act right now, it exists that we can't be discriminated against because we have that pre-existing condition. And I was just sitting here thinking, when we're on Capitol Hill and we're fighting to make sure our lawmakers do the right thing, if we had these women when we were up there September, they would have said, fine, okay, whatever you want. So, their voices, their unity, their strength is powerful, and keep it up, and you're going to change the world. And thank you.
Question, Adrian, for Dr. Hampton. So women, we know that men get breast cancer as well. Do you have any suggestions for women who have children, male children, and them being tested for breast cancer at what age?
So men, they should do breast self-exams if they notice a lump. And I actually have my first male breast cancer patient that I treated just recently. So it's about 1% of all cancers. Men should do breast self-exams. If you notice something that feels a little bit different, then you should get that checked out. Men are treated exactly the same way as women, including going on tamoxifen. For the sons, I think they should just be aware. They certainly should know the family history, know about your diagnosis, be able to list that when they're doing their own health assessment with their primary care providers. And then, of course, as with Tallulah's family, there was genetic testing. So if there are any genetic mutations in the family, that certainly would be important, and that would guide us on who else needs to be tested.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I see we have more questions. I know you guys are all ramped up to go. We are a little bit over time, but we want to thank you all so much for coming out tonight. Before I go, I want everybody in the audience to please put your hands together and please make some noise.
Help with this production, especially Brooke. Is Brooke still here? No, she left. So Brooke is the owner of this facility. I met her about 2 years ago, and she sat by me a couple of months ago, and I told her my vision, and she told me to come talk to her, and next thing I know, she was like, I'm gonna donate the space to you.